useRef does the similar kind of a thing. We are just going to do a simple comparative study, useRef and with use state, because that's an async call. Now useRef is not an async call. You're just using this variable. All we are try is we are very directly try and render this value like just a simple text box. Let me add a placeholder. Oops, something went wrong. Don't worry about it. See, nothing fancy. I can't just jump and hey guys, welcome back to our channel KnowledgeKeen, and this is your friend Wasim. And today, after a long time, we are gonna see useRef. Okay, another important hook that we have in React, and that's what we are gonna see today. I know these videos are getting a bit delayed, but I'm sorry, I was having some issues with my setup till now. So that is not resolved yet, but soon we are going to resolve it. And till then, we are going to do the recordings like this. I'm sorry for the delay. Without wasting any time, let's go ahead with our today's topic, useRef. So I'm just referring to the same React official documentation that we're going to see here. What is a useRef? It's another hook. Okay, it's a simple hook, inbuilt hook, because whenever you see a use, you should know that it's an hook that we're going to use. So useRef is a hook that lets you reference the value that is not needed for rendering. Okay, what does this mean? We're going to see soon. And constant ref, useRef, and the initial value. So initial value, this we have seen a bit before too, like in use state. So useRef does the similar kind of a thing. We are just going to do a simple comparative study, useRef and with use state. So I hope you went through our previous videos. In there, I have explained that there are two types of components. That is, one is controlled components, and uncontrolled components, right? Uncontrolled components. Yeah. So let's see. In control component refers to the components that have their behavior and state controlled by the parent component. And uncontrolled refers to the who manage their own state internally. In short, the controlled and uncontrolled kind of components where you can manage the renderization of the components using useState, and where you directly go ahead and use the values from the DOM, that becomes something called as an uncontrolled component. Okay, so useRef basically whenever you change this initial value to some other thing, useRef will never update your DOM. So that's how it is going to be. In short, let's go ahead and see a simple how useRef we are going to see. UseRef also comes from React. We'll see the example soon, but before that, let's dig a bit more into the documentation. Initial value, we already know what is an initial value. Let's leave it. useRef returns an object with a single property. So in short, in useRef, you have only one property that is called as current. Whatever value you set in the initial value here, here, the same value is set to your variable, that is ref. Ref.current would be the exact initial value. We are going to see this example, so you need not have to worry about it. You can later set it to something else, that is ref. The example that we were using here. If, for example, interval ref.current is equal to something else, and that value would be changed. There are no getters and setters in useRef. Next, there are some caveats too. So you can mutate the ref current property. Unlike state, it is mutable. We know that state is immutable. If you want to change the value of the state, you have to use getters and setters. But here you can directly change the value of ref.current. We are going to see it in an example soon in this video itself. When you change the ref.property, React does not re-render. This is the most important sentence that you should know, that whenever you're going to use the ref.current, basically your reference useRef.current, it's not gonna re-render. Next, do not read or write during rendering. That is like, okay. In strict mode, React will call your component twice. We already know this. We have seen it like it 100 times now in our videos. Okay, so let's not waste any time. Let's go back to our examples. Okay, this is our previous example. I have created a folder. I'll simply create index.js, and the way we usually start our videos is creating a component that we will never forget. useRef, example, useRef component. Okay, let's name something, or useRef instead of not to confuse you. useRef example would be my component, a simple component, and I'm going to export it, export default, useRef example. which returns a simple h. Let me just add a fragment so that I can add something else. I am useRef example. Save. Let me go to my app. Let me remove this Axios and use ref example. Okay, fine. So if you go here, just quickly re-render. I'm a useRef example. This is a simple component that we have seen so many times. Now let's go ahead and start using our useRef. To add a simple example, I'll just say const myRef equal to useRef. Okay, it is again imported from React, which you can see at the line 1, and I'll add a 0 value. Okay, simple. I'll add a button. I'll add a button here. Let's say click me for count update, something like this. Okay, and to this button we can say simply on click a synthetic event, handle click, something like this, handle click. Okay, and constant handle click. Don't worry about the formatting, my prettier will do the formatting. Console.log will just see what is the value of myRef. It is going to be myRef.current. It is just going to give you the value as .current. Refresh F12. Let me just zoom this a bit. Come on, F12. Let me zoom this a bit too. Go up. You can see it returns an object that we saw here. Your useRef returns an object with a single property current, and that's what we are going to see here. That's what we are saying, that it returns an object with a current property. If you want to just use the value, if you want to see the value, just do a myRef.current, and that will give you the latest value. Whenever I click this, it will give me the value. Simple. Okay, if I want to update the value, you just have to do something like simple myRef.current equal to or plus equal to, that is one and the same thing. I'm just going to, every time I'm going to add 1 to it. See, it always gives me the latest and updated value. For if you have forgotten, you know that use state does not do this. I'm just refreshing our memories here. If I do the same thing with use state, I can't see the value with an immediate effect. It takes some time because that's an async call. Now useRef is not an async call. You're just using this variable always relies in the your browser memory. I'll add a use effect just to see if this console.log I am re-rendered. Okay, let me see how many times this console gets re-rendered. Okay, it's the first time I am re-rendered. That's fine because it is the first time that my component is loading. But even if though I am updating my variable, the component is not getting re-rendered. You have seen this before. We have done this before in a previous video. If you have missed it, I'll try to put in the link. But just to refresh our memory, these things we have already seen in our lifecycle, how the lifecycle architecture works, like mounting, updating, and unmounting stages. Okay, so this is an updating stage. So whenever my component is updated, whenever my variable is some value is updated, it usually refreshes. So basically, whenever my component is reloaded, this use effect gets called. But now, even though my variable is updating, it is not getting called because whenever you make any change to your use reference variables, the component never reloads. It only reloads in when you're using use state variables instead of use ref variables. So now you might think that, okay, then why are we using use state? Why are we not using use ref? Okay, because to give answer to that, I'll simply add like h2 or h3, whatever it is, count. I'll simply print this my ref.current. So it always has the value. Refresh, I'll just do a refresh, and my count is 0. It is never rendering the updated value, even though the current value is 8, but as my component is not getting reloaded, my value never changes. So you have to understand to print, or basically to use display some value on the component in your virtual DOM. To get that reflected into the virtual DOM, you have to use state variables. If you are not using the functionality of virtual DOM, if you're not displaying the values, if you're just doing some calculations behind the scenes where you don't want your page to be reloaded, where your component to be reloaded, you have to use useRef. In most of the cases, it is always said that try and avoid using useRef, okay, because this manipulations is happening without the help of your virtual DOM. Okay, I'm pretty sure that do not redirect during rendering. See, manipulating the DOM with a reference will do this also. So it's always good to avoid using useRef excessively. Okay, if you're using it very minimal, that's okay. But if you don't try and use it excessively, because it is a direct manipulation to your DOM. There might be some cases where you directly try and render this value like this, and it will never be rendered. So when should we use useRef then? Okay, again, if you have seen my previous videos, you know that if I have a text box, let's go back to our another example. I have a text box, okay, a simple text box. I'll add a BR for the next line, and I have type equal to text. Okay, it's a simple text box. Let me add a placeholder. I am text box. Simple, so that you can see I am a text box. I can enter anything in this. But what on click of this, if you see, I want to add a focus to this component, focus to this text box. How can I do that? I can't. Okay, right now with using all the properties of React, we can't. So for that, we need the help of useRef, because we are directly manipulating something on the DOM. You can do that. So see, now it is 8. Now you'll see that why it is 8, because I added a text box. I have not done a page refresh. It's the component that is just re-rendering and taking the updated value of your useRef and displaying it. It's not like dynamic update. Again, if I do this, it's not gonna change. So it's a simple text box. Now, if by click on this button, if I want to add a focus to this, then my reference would be we can use this. So let's say that text reference, something like this, equal to useRef. I don't want to pass any value. That's absolutely fine. I will say give this text box a reference. So how to give a text box a reference? Using the property attribute ref. So it will just bind the variable which I have, text ref, to this simple text box. Okay, now on click of this button, so we already have the click on this button, what we can simply say, focus on the in the text box. So simply what we can do is we can say text ref dot current. That is always going to be the case whenever you're using useRef. Current is always going to come. Dot, I can just simply say focus. I can call the methods that we JavaScript provides us for focus, like whichever methods that you have, document.getElement by ID, right? After doing document.getElement by ID, and you just say like focus or something, these all methods you can simply use it here, because you are doing a dynamic DOM manipulation. See, now the focus is not there in the text box. If I click this, it will automatically throw the focus in the text box. Okay, easy. I hope this is like easy. Again, if I just change the value, now there might be a question like, what if I simply say text.current equal to Wasim, something like this? What will happen then? It will still not update the value in the text box. Okay, because oops, something went wrong. Don't worry about it. Okay, did I do something wrong? Refresh. That's because I updated the value of my this reference. So simply it's not going to work like this. Okay, it's always going to be your to change the value you have to use useStates. I hope that was pretty simple. I hope this useRef is you can see it like simple and easy. If you just compare it side by side, both useRef and useState, they both have their own kind of a interesting use. So if I just simply go ahead, I remove this, you can use the text box with a normal controlled way of doing it. With the value, I say text val, and on change I can simply say set text val. I have still not defined this variable, e dot target dot simple value. Okay, I can just go ahead, declare this getters and setters, text val comma set text val equal to use state. I'll just say 0. Okay, the default value is 0. I can still say, see, whenever I'm updating any value of useState, I'm getting re-rendered. That's how useState works. And if I'm changing the value of my count variable, my component is not getting re-rendered. I hope this was pretty simple comparative example between your set text val useState. We have done this before. If you don't know why are we writing this, go ahead and see our control components video. You'll be able to understand what we are exactly doing here. And this is my ref, useRef. It's pretty easy. It's pretty neat. I have seen major architects also using this variable for something, performing some internal calculations, because at that moment my DOM is not getting re-rendered. I hope this was like pretty simple. Now, before I end up this video, there is one limitation for my useRef. We also should see limitations, right? So I will, to make you understand this, I'll create two components: parent component comp.js and a simple child component.js. Child component, nothing fancy here. It's just two components. Constant parent component equal to, oops, it's a component, return h1 useRef parent component, and just export default parent component. If you're getting bored with this, of seeing me typing, you can just skip to from where I started with child component itself. So useRef, I'm just writing something more so that it becomes a differentiating factor. Child component. Okay, I go to my parent component, I simply render child component from here. Okay, and this whole parent component, I'll simply render, I'll remove all of this, I'll just comment it out for you right now, and I'll just add my parent component here. Nothing fancy I did. You can just load this parent component in the app too. That will work. See, use reference. This is a parent component. Use reference, I am a child component. I have added a use reference so that we have, it's just an example. I have not done anything still regarding use reference. To show this limitation, what we can do, I'll create a variable, the same variable. Let's create a count ref variable, something. Ref, adding a ref is not compulsory. This is not mandatory. I can say counter. That will still create my useRef 0. Okay, and refresh. See, nothing fancy. I can't just simply say what I was doing here. Oops, I removed it. Like I was doing ref, right? If you remember, text box, something like this. You can't do the same thing with your custom component. So you can't just simply say ref equal to counter. Right now it is not throwing an error, but when you go to the output, you just can see an error that gets displayed here. Function components cannot be given as refs. Attempting to access this ref will fail. So basically useRef will not work in this case. Did you mean forward reference? Yes, another interesting concept, but not in this video. I don't want to confuse you guys. This is for the next part. But for this, right now, only remember you can't do a reference. Use this attribute ref with any custom component that you have. Okay, that will fail. Okay, it will not, it's just a warning, I think. Yes, it's just a warning, correct? It's not an error that your component is throwing, it's just a warning, because even if you try to access this variable, you won't be able to access it. I hope till here it was pretty easy for you to understand useRef. Now, if I want to do this, how can you do that? I want to pass this reference. Okay, I'm very adamant that I want to do this. There is another way. That is your forward reference, but that's for another day. I hope I tried to explain useRef as much as possible, and I hope I made it as simple as I have made it in the previous videos. If you like it, please, I would appreciate you sharing these videos, and please give us a thumbs, and I love to read your comments, and whatever questions you have, put down in the comments. I'll try to answer all of them as much as possible. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good day and see you soon in another video. Thank you.